Come holla at your girl. We don't say that anymore, do we? That's a really millennial thing I just said. Could somebody keep me fun? If I have any Gen Zs over here, can you keep me hip? What do I say that is not holla at your girl? What is the thing that you kiddos are saying these days? I'm trying to get my groove back. Welcome back to this channel. It's your resident internet psychic medium and spiritual advisor, Mr. Crane. And today we're going to be doing a very impromptu discussion, reading. We're going to talk. So listen, I did not actually plan to do this today, but some really good information started coming out. So I figured that I was going to share it with you guys because I started channeling and I was like, someone probably needs to hear this. And so for those of you that don't know, a lot of you guys go, oh, when you create your videos, a lot of the times it's spot on. Like, you said exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. And there's two ways that happens, right? So one, either one of you asks me a question and I go and I answer the question. And because all of us are part of the same collective group, a lot of times it is not uncommon for one of you to have a question that other people also had, right? So that's one way that happens. But the other way that happens is because I actually check into the collective energy. And I usually do it about weekly. There's like usually a time where I sit down, I center myself, and I'm like, all right, Spirit, what you got? Tell me what's going on. And then I even say, what do people need to hear from me, or what do people need to hear from you through me, right? And so that is how I get a lot of the messages. And so today I was actually doing that now, and a lot of things started to come through. And so I figured, okay, instead of me doing it and then trying to figure out what video needs to be made and putting the message out there, I'll just tell you as I'm actually getting it. And so what I'm picking up, and we've actually been talking about this for a while now, actually, in terms of like this idea that there's going to be this big shift and people want new things for their lives, but the intensity, one, is changing, but how it is manifesting in people is also changing as well. So like before it was like fear, but like now it seems to be turning into like an overwhelm, right? So like it feels like people are just overwhelmed. I'm sensing a lot of anxiety, and what's coming through is that the reason why this is happening is due to the time frame that we have created for ourselves, not necessarily the time frame that actually exists, right? Meaning that the time frame that actually exists is divine timing, but then we have a time frame that we created for ourselves, which is like this Gregorian calendar where 2024 starts at the beginning of the year. And so what happened, and I'm sensing that this started happening for people around June and July, where people started going, actually the way my life looks now is not what I really want it to look like. And we've discussed this already about how people are now shifting. But what's happening now is there's something about, because I don't know when you're going to get to this video, but there's something about coming right after Thanksgiving, which is when I'm recording this video, where the energy shifted, where people went, wait, oh my God, it's almost Christmas. Oh my God, it's almost the end of the year. And holy crap, it's almost the first. And so this idea of timeline that society has created, where a new timeline somehow begins on the beginning of the year, the 1st of January, is now weighing on people, where people are feeling like, okay, I had this idea, I knew I wanted to change these things, but I didn't move fast enough. There's a feeling of like either I didn't move fast enough, or I'm not moving fast enough, or the answer isn't coming to me fast enough. The ideas aren't flowing as fast as I need them to. I'm going to get to the beginning of the year, and then I'm still going to be in the same energy. And then I don't want to bring this into the new year, but then what do I do? And so there's this feeling of overwhelm. There's also this feeling for a lot of people where some people are coming into purpose, and their purpose at the moment is not actually aligned with what it is that they're currently doing in their life. And so because of that, because it feels like a flip, as opposed to feeling like, oh, I'm just moving in purpose, it feels like it's supposed to be this big drastic thing when it isn't. And the reason why it's not is because it's purpose. And if it's your purpose, then that means that it is something that was already written, right? And so if it's already written, then how it flows and how it works out and all the steps and 1, 2, 3 and ABC, all of that is already worked out. right? It's not something that you actually have to work out. So if you feel like there's this step or this place or this direction that you're supposed to be going, and maybe you don't really have an answer for why you're going in that direction, but you just feel that like that's what's next for you. But then you're like, but what do I do? Like all those little ideas in between, what do I do about that? None of that matters because it was written anyway, right? And so like there's a difference between like destiny and like fate, right? Whereas like one of them, i.e. destiny, is what is already written. Destiny is what you decide. Fate is what happens to you, right? So a lot of people are in an energy of fate, thinking that the thing that they want is a fate thing. If it could happen, maybe one day, right? Oh, I wish. You're putting it as if it's like the responsibility of fate, where it's actually the responsibility of destiny. And destiny is something that the soul creates prior to incarnating anyway. It's not something that happens outside of you, it's something that you create. So if you feel in your heart of hearts that there's just a direction that you're supposed to be going, regardless of whether or not you understand why that's the direction, then that is telling you that it's a destiny thing. That means it's written already, right? Which is why you're feeling pulled and guided to go into that particular direction, right? Now, here's the thing. We are going into a new year. This is no longer the year of just vision boards, okay? We're going into a year of plans. So if you have something that you have put on your vision board and it's been on your vision board for 2 years, 3 years, it's time for you to now make a plan for it, right? You're not going to go into 2024 with it back on your vision board. You're going into 2024 with it having a plan. And the reason for that is because obviously you care enough about it to put it back on a vision board. So if you care enough about it to put it back on a vision board, then why are you not doing something in order to make it happen, right? And so you are now going to create a plan for that thing. Mystic Rain. But I don't know what the plan is. That is okay. So you're going to now start working on action steps, and you're just going to write step 1. And then you're going to do step 1, and then you're going to watch how step 2 comes to you. Because in life, a lot of things we do is just step by step. You want to know what the finished product looks like. You want to know all the steps that get you to the end. But how do you get the final step when you don't even do the first step? Why would the final step be revealed to you if you didn't do step 1? You haven't done anything yet to actually start the manifestation process to bring this thing into creation, but you're worrying about the final step and what it looks like in the end. The only thing that you need to know is that there is one. There is an end. You don't need to know the rest in between. Sometimes the rest in between isn't your business. And the reason why sometimes it's not your business is because sometimes the rest in between isn't actually something that you're doing, right? So for example, a lot of you guys have a spirit guide, some form of a spirit team, and they're also helping as well, right? There's a lot of creative energy. You've got the universe. There's a lot that's conspiring behind the scenes that's helping you get to wherever it is that you're going. Not everything is you, right? There are things that are happening in my life. There are opportunities that I have gotten that I did not do myself, that spirit does. And those are the things that we look at as pleasant surprises or miracles, things that we didn't touch that just come to us, right? So you may want to manifest this thing and you have this end goal, but you're like, I can't see all the stuff in between. It's because it's not you doing it, right? It may be you do step 1, and then you have somebody on your spirit team that's working on step 2. And then when they finish, you come back and do step 3, and then they go work on step 4. And so sometimes the reason why you can't see the steps in between is because they're not your steps. Okay? They're not your steps. A lot of you guys are leaving things that no longer bring you fulfillment, right? So there is, for some of you, it's relationships, but what I'm seeing a lot of is that it's situations. It is like work situations, home situations. environment. That's the word I'm looking for. It's environment. It's outgrowing an environment or feeling like the environment that you're currently in is no longer in alignment with you. And so that environment could be a literal house or apartment that you live in. That environment could be a friendship group that you always hang out with, and every time you see them, you don't like the environment and how it feels. That environment, it could be a job, it can be an office environment, but it's more so of an environment that's no longer bringing you fulfillment. And if you have been worrying about like, why is this the case for you? All that it is just that you've grown. It has nothing to do with something is wrong with you, something is wrong with the people, something is wrong with the environment, something is wrong with the job, something is wrong with the house. It just is that you just outgrew it, right? So take a house, for example, or an apartment. When you reach a point in life when your life is supposed to expand, sometimes the square footage needs to expand too, because we have to remember we're still beings with aura. We have energetic bubbles, and it's very possible for you to expand and the energetic bubble to grow and then get stuck in the corners of a particular house or home, right? It could literally be an expansion thing. Sometimes the energy goes stale and you're like, or sometimes it's just boredom. So if you're like, oh my God, I don't understand, particularly if you've been in a situation where you feel like your environment was somewhat stable. And when I say stable, I don't mean that you like the environment. I mean stable as in predictable, right? Like it was comfortable because you could predict it. You knew that this is where you were going every day. You knew that this is what you were doing. If it's a friendship group, you knew who they were. You knew how they act. There were no surprises, right? I mean that. And you're like, why would I actually want to shake this up? There's nothing wrong, right? It's not a situation of is it me? Is it them? It's nobody. It's just that you're growing. And with growth comes a very natural ability to want change and shift in life, right? Because you get bored. And so you want novelty, you want new experiences, right? And so a lot of you are just in a place where you just want to move on from whatever situation that you are currently in. For people that are in relationships, if it's a romantic thing, what I'm seeing for you guys is that there was once a time where it was a good time. And there's this feeling of, well, what happened? Why is it breaking apart? Why don't I like them that way? Why does it feel like maybe they changed towards me? We used to have it so good in the beginning. It's just growth. Souls grow, right? We evolve, and not every relationship, and this can be platonic or romantic, is meant to be forever. If it was meant to be forever, we wouldn't be dying and leaving these bodies. There's only one way we all get out of here, is death. Okay? And so by the virtue of that itself, there is not a relationship that will last forever, at least in this incarnation. Now, there are relationships that do find each other over lifetimes and you pair back up and things like that. But in this lifetime, like, no, that's not necessarily the case, right? You may find somebody that you'll marry and you'll be with until death do you part, but that's not necessarily what relationships are for. You're there to grow with each other, to learn with each other, potentially service each other during that time, teach each other things, right? And it's okay to have been in a situation where you felt like we were so good, it was so good, I don't understand what's wrong. There's nothing wrong, is what I'm trying to say. It's just that it's time to go, it's time to move on, it's time to grow. You got a lot of new things that are coming in, you got new things on the horizon. There's also this reflection period that's also happening too right now, which I suspect is coming from the fact that we're in the holiday season, because that does happen. Where you start to think about family and you start to think about the past. For some of you, there are situations where you're just not with family at the moment, maybe not with friends, that it's a oh, that was weird. Yeah, that was weird. Yeah. So some of you guys right now, you're feeling alone, or even for the ones of you that are around family members right now or friends, you may feel like they maybe some of them don't really understand you all that well. But remember too that it's also an energy that's happening in the collective, and that's just because it's holiday time. It's holiday time. It's a time when people go to sleep or animals go to sleep. where they start to go into hibernation. Even the grass goes dormant, right? The grass goes to sleep for a little bit until the springtime, right? And so that's just what's happening. It's a collective energy where people start evaluating life, and they start to evaluate who's in it and what's around. So if you feel particularly low, it's because it's the holidays and you're thinking about family or the lack thereof. Remember that that energy is actually being duplicated throughout the collective itself. And due to it being duplicated throughout the collective itself, it may seem more intense for you than what it actually is. You just may be having a thought, right? Like, oh, it would be nice if there was more family around right now. It's just a thought form. The problem is because multiple people are having this thought form in the collective right now, due to the time of year that it is, your thought form is now being multiplied and like it's like at a magnitude right now due to other people having the same thought form. So it's combining, the energies are combining. And so it's what it's feeling like for you. It may feel like it's like this big overwhelming thing where like all of a sudden you're just like hyper aware that like no one's around, where that's not necessarily the case. It's more just, it was a thought form. You thought it because you went, oh, that's interesting, I'm by myself right now. But because other people are thinking the same thing, it got magnified, right? So keep that in mind as you're going through this holiday season. Also make a decision that as you go through the season, that every decision that you make will be an empowered decision. If you are someone where you feel like you're going to be spending time alone and you don't really want to be doing that, make sure that everything you do is an empowered decision. You do what you want to do in a way that's empowered. You're going to eat what you're going to eat because it's empowered. Don't feel like, okay, I'm by myself, so I can't have a nice holiday meal. That's false. You can, right? Make sure what you do is empowered. Saying something like, well, I'm by myself, so I'm not going to have a holiday meal is a very disempowered decision for you to be making. And when you disempower yourself, right, then that's when you start falling into this black hole, this holiday black hole. And then now you got the holiday sadness. What is it called? It's called sad, right? That thing that you have, that depression thing that people have during the holidays when it gets cold, right? So I would say keep that in mind. So I want to look into some other things. I feel like that's all that's coming out with tarot. I've been shuffling these things for a minute. So I want to move on to something else to see what you guys got going on for you. I'm picking up on the fact some of you've got like new business ideas. That's a really interesting energy. I've actually been picking up on that a lot in the last like 6 months. This idea of who is this collective? Who's in my collective? You guys are ambitious. Like, you guys are ambitious. I have a lot of like just ambition that we like this group, whoever you guys are, there's a lot of ambition that's in this group. It's quite nice. But I'm getting a lot of people wanting businesses. That's really interesting. I feel like if I ever were to ever have an event, I'm going to have to find someone that's like a business expert or something like that would come in and like help you guys out with that. Because I feel like this collective group of people would actually do really well with something like that. Like how to start it, things like paperwork and formalities, like the formalities of like real business ownership. I get a lot of people wanting to have businesses, and it's not even a lot of like, oh, I would like to do this for fun. It's a real sense of people going, like, I want this to be my livelihood. It's that kind of feeling. Like people like really want to be like real like businessmen and businesswomen. It's that shuffling. How are you guys doing, by the way? I never actually do this. Oh, like this one needs to come out. Oh, what fell? What fell? What fell? Somebody help! Ah! Somebody help me! All right, save that for a different day. But like now I really want it because something is telling me, oh, that thing is gone. It fell through the cushions, man. It fell through the couch cushions. All right, well, Spirit said it wasn't important. All right. That's interesting. There's a soulmate card that's coming out here, which is really interesting. I'm seeing it in two ways, though. I'm seeing it. For those of you that are in a place where you're like, okay, I'm ready to pursue, I am like ready to pursue. What word am I looking for? I'm ready to pursue my inevitable, right? Spirit taught me that phrase this morning, where things are not a goal. And the reason why things are not a goal is because there's destiny and then there's fate, and destiny is what's written and fate is what happens to you. The things that are written, that's destiny, are things that you, the soul, wrote prior to your incarnation. It's your decision, it's your path, right? So we have a tendency to call those things goals, in the sense of like, I'm working really hard to reach my goal, as opposed to viewing that thing as the inevitable. It's not a goal, it's the inevitable, right? And so if you are someone that's like, I want to work towards the goal, it's not working towards the goal, it is doing the inevitable, right? So if it's already written because your soul wrote it prior to incarnation, then there is not anything that you need to work towards, you just need to do, right? You just need to start taking that first step and get the ball rolling. So you're doing your inevitable. So anyone that has their inevitable and it's coming across in this soulmate card, and it's something in this card that I had never seen before, but one of the penguins is holding a key. Someone is going to come in that may offer some information, help, but it's subtle. What I'm sensing is that it's subtle. So it's not going to be like an opportunity, like someone's coming in to bring an opportunity. It's almost as if someone's coming in and they're going to say something and it's going to sound like a tip, where it's going to be like a light bulb moment for you, where you're going to go, oh crap, actually that could work, and then you're going to run with it, right? And it's like this key. They give you the key in order to start, right? So if someone is willing to offer you advice, and I don't mean like, I mean, if it feels really serendipitous, you're talking to somebody, you end up on the same conversation, they say something and it feels like a ping, right? Like that light bulb thing, and it goes off for you, then that is something that you should probably consider. Because it feels like someone's going to come in and help with that tidbit of information that you need. There's also like a time frame that's happening for you, and it's really interesting because this card came out, it's TikTok. And I said earlier that 2024 is not going to be the year that we rewrite the same thing on a vision board. 2024 is now the year where we start creating a plan for that thing that we want, right? And so what I'm getting from this card is that it's going, all right, now are you ready? Let's go. Let's move. TikTok, right? Like, we let you sit on it for 2 years. We let you sit on it for 3 years. You put that thing on your vision board a few times and we let you sit on it, but now it's time for us to get going. Let's go. It's time for us to move now. Why now? Because it's time. That's interesting. This one actually was just out and I shoved it back in and it came back out. You can't see it. It says why. And the reason why is because it's for you. It was written for you. You wrote it. You should have it. You want it because you deserve it, because it's yours, because why not? Because if they can have it, why can't you? That's why. And then now coming out, fork in the road. So you do have a decision to make in terms of what life you would like to live. Do you want to live the life that you're currently living now, which is maybe predictable, but it may not be fulfilling? Or do you want to start making more empowered decisions and more empowered choices to live a fulfilling life? The thing about fulfillment is that fulfillment is not given to you. Fulfillment is something that you take. You must take fulfillment in order to be fulfilled. It's not going to just give it to you. So you are now at a fork at the road. Which path do you want to take? I have a feeling. And I know what path you'll be taking. You're just in the process of getting to know it yourself. And then also probably in the process of trying to overcome your hyperventilation about it too. This is fun. I don't think I've ever done this with you guys. That's interesting, these cards that came out. Some of you are afraid of saying the things that you actually think and things that you actually want to say and things that you actually mean because you are afraid of the response. You're afraid that there may be consequences for you voicing your opinion. And so because of that, you don't say anything at all. There's a lot of you that like heavily censor yourself. One, you actually have to pay attention to that because when you heavily censor yourself like that, you can get sick and you can end up with sinus problems and you can end up with throat issues and sore throats and all types of stuff. And so you have to be mindful of that. And the reason for that is because it's getting stuck in your energy field. Because when it's supposed to come out and it's supposed to come out of the mouth and then you're holding it back, that energy is just sitting there. It's just sitting in the throat and it's festering and it can actually make you sick. So you have to be mindful of that. Some of you are in environments where you're not actually being treated kindly by other people. People are mistreating you. People are talking to you any kind of way. They're talking to you crazy. And you're not defending yourself and you're not standing up for yourself. And the reason why that is, there's a few. One, you don't want to rock the boat. There's a feeling of potentially losing an opportunity. So it could be like losing a job or something like that. If you are headed on a different path anyway, because these people are not on the path that you are going to change to. That fork in the road where you're like, oh my God, should I continue doing what I'm doing now or should I make a different decision? The answer to the question is that you will end up making the decision. It's less about whether or not you're going to make the decision and more about feeling ready to make that decision, right? And these people that are doing this, talking to you crazy, treating you like unkindly, are not actually on that new path anyway. And so what you're going to have to do is take some time to yourself and consider the fact, or consider why is it difficult for you to say whatever it is that you have to say, even though you know that those people are not on the path that you want to pursue anyway. Those people are going to be in your future past position. So why are you having a hard time speaking up and saying whatever it is that you're saying? That's just something that you need to sort of evaluate, right? Also understand that when you speak up for yourself, that doesn't mean that it has to be conflict. You can speak up for yourself in a way that's calm, in a way that's dignified. It doesn't have to involve yelling or cursing. You can say things calmly. But the other thing that you're going to have to consider too is if these people are going to be in your future past position, if they're not a part of the path that you know that you actually want to pursue, then the other question that you need to ask yourself is, why does it matter what they're saying anyway? They're not in your future. So what about the situation is making you upset as much as it is? Is it really that they are just assholes? Is that what it is? Or do they make you feel vulnerable and you don't like that? Do they make you feel unsafe and you don't like that? And there may be like other underlying reasons that you may have to examine. And examining underlying reasons, it doesn't mean that there's something that you're supposed to do about it when you get the answer. It just gives you greater insight into this situation and what's going on. And clarity, that's the word I was looking for. It gives you better clarity. And sometimes when we have clarity of a situation, it's easier to navigate the situation. It's easier to tolerate the situation and to deal with it. Prior to having clarity into a situation, then we get into this space where we're like, oh my God, am I doing something wrong? Did I say something wrong? Why don't they like me? Like we can run away with it. And versus when we have the clarity, a lot of times we just realize like, oh no, you're the problem. It actually had nothing to do with me at all. I lost another card, and Spirit said that wasn't important. Interesting. That's interesting. So this card says, on who am I placing blame right now? However, when I first read it, I saw it as, who is blaming me right now? I think this has to do with what I was just saying about how some of you are in situations where people aren't actually being very nice to you, or they're talking to you kind of crazy, probably blaming things on you that you didn't do, saying things that are your fault that isn't your fault, different things like that. There's a lot of chirping, there's a lot of chatter, there's a lot of gossiping, there's a lot of I'm sensing just people talking shit, just people being unpleasant. There's a feeling of just like people they're just unpleasant. They're just not being pleasant right now. Blame it on the holidays and the misery. I'm not really sure, but there's just a feeling of it. People are not being pleasant. We also have, am I consistently showing up? So for those of you that have your inevitables, because that's the word that we're going to start using. For those of you with your inevitables, have you been a reliable partner to yourself? Have you showed up consistently for yourself in order to reach your inevitables? If you haven't, is there a reason why you allow yourself to get angry or upset or hurt by other people that don't consistently show up for you if you yourself are not consistently showing up for you? Moving on. And then there's one that says, what is the most limiting belief keeping me from what I want right now? This is really interesting because it's like those blocks that you're having between taking that first step into pursuing your inevitable is coming from fear, doubt, worry, feeling like that you don't deserve it, that you're not good enough for it, that you can't do it, that nobody would care, nobody would look, nobody would come check you out, nobody would that you wouldn't be successful at it, right? And so what is that limiting belief keeping you from your inevitable? Because here's the thing about the inevitable, and I'm going to say it again, the inevitable is already written. You wrote it prior to your incarnation. So anything that is keeping you from being in a space where that can be your current experience right now in this moment is because you're the one that's stopping it. You have to ask yourself, why are you stopping the thing that you wrote? Why are you refusing to read the book you wrote already? Why are you refusing to acknowledge what you already decided prior to you incarnating? We have to remember that a lot of the opinions that we hold, particularly of the opinions that we're holding for self, are not our opinions. They are opinions that were picked up, right? So they're opinions that start getting picked up by guardians or parents. And then because they have limiting beliefs on themselves, and so then they transfer it over to you. So when you're a kid and you sound like you have a lofty goal, which probably isn't a goal at all, it's probably your inevitable because your soul probably wrote it, your parents will then go, well, that's not possible. Oh, look at them being dreaming again, right? There's always like these offhanded remarks. Sometimes you'll have a friend and they can be a best friend and you can communicate the thing that you want to do to them and they're like, And so what happens is we start to think that we can't do it or that we're thinking too much, right? And really what's happening is that person, and it's a reflection of that person in their inability to show up for themselves. Is a reflection of that person and their self-limiting beliefs. So it's a reflection of that person and what they think is possible for self. If that person has limited ideas on what is possible for self, then you can't expect that person to support you and your inevitables. They can't see it. They can't see the vision. They can't see their own vision. right? And so what happens is this happens a lot in life where we are excited about something, excited about an idea, and then we go and we tell whoever. That person has a very limited sense of self. Oh, that just woke up from her nap. That person has very limited feelings and views of themselves, what they can do, what they can accomplish. So then when you're over here talking about this big thing that you want for yourself, they can't see it. They can't see that vision. So they may start saying offhanded things that sound to you that they're not actually being supportive, when in reality, the problem is that they're just blind. So the limiting beliefs that you're carrying, are they yours? Or are they somebody else's? They may not be yours. And you're going to have to look into that. Anyway, that was fun. I'm going to wrap the video here because we're already starting to get a little bit too long. And I'm going to let you guys marinate on that. And by the way, guys, if you're over there on TikTok, come holla at your girl. We don't say that anymore, do we? That's a really millennial thing I just said. Because somebody keep me fun. If I have any Gen Zs over here, can you keep me hip? What do I say that is not holla at your girl? What is the thing that you kiddos are saying these days? I'm trying to get my groove back. Anyway, I'm going to go. If we don't meet again, we'll see you next lifetime.